We have so much news in the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And the problem that the world is experiencing is that cash, cold hard cash, is fading. Bitcoin is spreading. Bitcoin is taking over. And some people think that we're headed to the moon. And in Bitcoin or in Ethereum, who controls the ledger? Who controls the mining servers? And who controls the authority? And all of this can now be done with 100% privacy or 100% transparency. Let's talk about the liquidity effect of the crypto industry. Let's talk about the perspective of the people, and let's discuss. Hey everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you, and together, welcome to Minting Coins. There is a lot of news coming out of the industry. There's a lot happening, a lot going on. We are finding out so much in the Bitcoin world, in the Ethereum world. We have the Metropolis update that's about to kick in, starting to kick in as soon as today, with updating through multiple different upgrades to get to the ultimate goal that's going to provide all this value to the Ethereum market, at the same time seeing how the price of Bitcoin has been so stable, so solid, especially through all of this FUD. And I know dropping from $5,000 to $3,500 might not seem like a lot, but if you've been paying attention, Bitcoin has experienced much worse. And where we are now versus where people have expected that we were going to be, we were just a lot further ahead, a lot further along, especially when people were predicting a $3,000 price point by the end of this year. And we haven't even gone as low as $3,000, even through all of the craziness and all of the fiascos with the news that's been coming out and what's happening and what's going on. And let me just tell you, the craziness is still yet to come. There is so much more that's about to come out in terms of the news, in terms of the developments of the technology, in terms of the regulation from both governments and traditional financial institutions to bring us in, to usher us in into this new world of blockchain technology, and all the different ways that this technology is going to be used in ways that we can't even imagine yet at this point. So with that being said, it's really exciting. There's a lot of speculation in terms of the price, where it's at now, the price where everyone is predicting it's going to be, and everyone keeps on talking about the moon. But what does the moon mean? And how many levels, how many stages are there to get to the moon? Does the moon mean $100,000 Bitcoin? Does it mean $1 million Bitcoin? And when the market goes up and the market goes down, and looking at the exponential growth that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are experiencing as more and more people are recognizing the opportunity, as more and more people are learning about the applications of the technology and how they can build on it, how they can develop on it. And that's not even getting to the level of consumer adoption where people can really play with it, really experience it, because even before Facebook came out and Zappos came out, people and the internet was around and existing, and people were using it for email and exchanging information across the world. As revolutionary as that was, no one had any idea, hardly anybody had any idea what to expect in terms of what the internet technology brought. Yet here we are now, faced with a Bitcoin around $4,000, recognizing, as we're going to see in the news today, the Bitcoin reaching prices potentially around $25,000 within a couple of years, or maybe more, maybe less, maybe it'll be zero. Remains to be seen. So let's look at the market, let's take a peek at the news, and let's discuss. Okay, so starting over here at coinmarketcap.com, we have 865 different cryptocurrencies. Total market capitalization of $137 billion, with a 24-hour volume trading at 4.8 billion. So it's a healthy amount of trading in the past 24 hours. And the Bitcoin dominance is very, very strong, pushing up 48%. It'll be really interesting to see if we exceed that 50% level again before we see the alt market and the other different cryptocurrencies start to expand, because this is a massive cycle. The Bitcoin goes up, the Bitcoin goes down, the cryptocurrency space overall goes up, the cryptocurrency space overall goes down. And as we've seen the fluctuations of the Bitcoin dominance decrease and increase and repeat, now that we're in this upswing of the Bitcoin dominance increasing, I would expect to see a lot of developments come out with the other coins, for example, with the Ethereum Metropolis update that we were talking about, and how it's going to create all of this scalability and efficiency in terms of how the network works, and demand for the Ether token, because it's shifting from the proof of work mining and electricity model to the proof of stake, which is holding and hoarding and staking the Ether token model. Very, very similar to what Dash is doing, where they're actually minting coins with the Ethereum, minting coins with Dash, minting coins with Pivx, and potentially very soon minting coins with the OMG Go token, which people are very, very, very excited about. If you haven't heard of Go, I would recommend that you start looking into the OMG parent company, which is OmiziGo, and you look into their new token system with the OMG token, because it's very, very promising. One of the two ICOs that are being advised by Vitalik Buterin. The second one is the Kyber network. Kyber.network, I believe, is their website. Check that out. It's the second ICO that Vitalik Buterin is backing. And I don't have this queued up in the news right now, but I was just watching Vitalik Buterin speak live at the TechCrunch conference. And I'm sure it's going to be breaking news. It was really interesting that Vitalik said that essentially Visa is going to be at risk of displacement as soon as 2 years from now, because of what Ethereum is doing. And it leads to reason. It's also because of what OmiziGo is doing and what Kyber is doing as well. So it's very, very interesting, and we can definitely see the alt markets and the different cryptocurrencies and digital assets that aren't Bitcoin start to swell in value. We can see some of these 10x, even Zcash, which is getting built into both Ethereum and Bitcoin, using the ZK Snark technology to allow for more privacy in those blockchains. There's only about 21 million Zcash that will ever be created, and so it's really interesting in terms of what that means for the overall value of that currency, and how all these different cryptocurrencies, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially the early adopters, the ones that have great teams, great technology, great backing inside their communities, are going to thrive in the future ecosystem as they're integrated and merging with each other to allow really cool abilities in the future. Taking a quick peek over at the Bitcoin price, I guess we see that Ethereum Classic is up 7%, IOTA up 9%, Lisk up 7%, Stratus up 12%. What else do we have here? Yeah, I guess the thing with Ethereum Classic, we have that conference coming up in November, and they're going to be limiting the number of Ethereum Classic ETC tokens out there, and they're going to be capping that at about 230 million, where Ethereum ETH is going to be near zero, but not zero inflation. So it's going to be really interesting how they're seeking to really capitalize the Internet of Things market. So it's going to be really competing with the IOTA. I suppose that makes it interesting that IOTA and Ethereum Classic are both competing for the Internet of Things sort of space, which is very, very big for the future. But they're both up respectively in terms of the Bitcoin price. So that's definitely interesting. Okay, so also in the news, we have this article from Cointelegraph.com talking about the Bitcoin price, and talking about the Bitcoin price, speaking to the fact that it may be headed toward $25,000, even despite of the recent setbacks as seen on CNBC. And so they're saying that this could be as soon as 5 years, which would be really interesting, because we have the whole John McAfee bet where he's saying it's going to be 500,000 in 3 years. We'll see how that goes. But even with all the negative news that Bitcoin has been suffering, there's two major factors, according to Lee, that thinks that, you know, Bitcoin has these major advantages, these major aspects in the situation. One is the liquidity effect, and the second is the participation of the people, the perception of the people inside the cryptocurrency space, and with Bitcoin as well. And so, according to Lee, the Chinese exchanges are operating with 30% of the Bitcoin value. And so if they decide to shut down, that's going to affect Bitcoin. It's going to affect the price of Bitcoin. But overall, the market stabilizes, Bitcoin stabilizes, because there's so much participation inside the Bitcoin network around the world. There's just one Bitcoin chain. It's broadcasting from space. Everyone is following it. And so the people that this hurts with the liquidity effect and China shutting down the exchanges is that it hurts the Chinese citizens, because then it makes it difficult for them to move their money around. It makes it difficult for them to get inside Bitcoin. And yeah, overall, it doesn't help Bitcoin, because that would have been otherwise money inside the Bitcoin market cap that'd be increasing the value for the overall network. But it's just essentially temporary, because there's so much liquidity in the market overall. And then what do we have here? So society tends to see Bitcoin as a bubble and a fragile currency. I'm not really sure if our society sees that, or if it's just the forces that be that, you know, want to create that perception. But everyone is on the side of Bitcoin because, you know, the people that understand Bitcoin and are learning about the technology, because they're recognizing that their original experiences with the banks, their traditional experiences with the banks, with the financial institutions, haven't been helping them. It wasn't helping their parents. It wasn't helping their grandparents. They don't believe it's going to be helping the future generations. And so the perception of Bitcoin as a store of value, as a hope for the future, as a way to safeguard and trust, you know, nobody yet everybody with your money or your messages, that perception is really creating a lot of strength and a lot of trust that people are turning to into Bitcoin. And so let's see what this quote is over here that they have. So for instance, let me see, we have some data. There's only 300,000 holders of Bitcoin with at least 500,000 or with at least $5,000. So think about that. That's like saying if the iPhone was a bubble in 2007, 4 days into the sale, because there were only 500,000 iPhones. So it's not that many holders of Bitcoin. You know, when you think about it, how many wallets there are today that hold $5,000, it's huge. So I think it's still the very early stages. And so what they're saying is that because there's so few wallets and that have, you know, not a lot of money, and just overall, for the number of people that there are in the world and an amount of Bitcoin that's available, for there to be a true bubble, a major bubble, a bubble that would cause serious harm to everybody, then there'd be a lot more people involved. There'd be a lot more participation. And even if that was the case, that doesn't necessarily mean that there would be a bubble. And it's really interesting because there's all the different economic principles of Bitcoin versus other, you know, market supplies of capital that, you know, are more likely to create a bubble situation. So Bitcoin is different from other technologies. So the actual network itself is generating the value. So the Visa of Bitcoin is going to be as valuable as the blockchain itself. So with the Visa network, you know, there's people. It's not the Visa network that's pushing the Visa transactions. It's all the people that work centrally and connected to the Visa network. With Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin itself that's pushing it along. So fraud transactions cannot happen on the digital currency. And so it's again, this is leading into the trust of Bitcoin, the trust of the blockchain technology. And so people are recognizing that there is the ability for major liquidity inside Bitcoin. Some countries can turn on and turn off that liquidity, but the potential for it to increase is huge. And not only is the potential for it to increase is huge, it's not doing too shabby where it's at now. And again, the second idea is the whole perception of the people, and the people are seeing Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin blockchain as being trusted. They're seeing it as being unhackable. You're seeing it as being censorship resistant, borderless, that's allowing them to have freedom of their wealth, freedom of speech, and, put their money somewhere where it's going to create more value for their family, not less, like the money the bank is doing, because of not just the really low interest rates that the banks are providing, but also the inflation that's going against the money. So the $100 bills in your pocket, while they're still legal, are actually losing value every day or every year as the cost of goods goes up, because more fiat money is printed into the market. All right, so the last quote here says, I think it could be very threatening to the financial institutions to see and trust is created on the network, and the distribution of the network by way from the generation perspective. I think people under the age of 30, this makes perfect sense. So it's, again, very threatening for the financial institutions that don't understand how the trust is created, or maybe they just understand that they're being excluded from the way that trust is created. But again, the millennials, the children of all the parents who've been screwed by the banks, screwed by the educational system, screwed in terms of not seeing the increase in wages as maybe stocks have increased, or as company profits have increased. The people who are around 30 and under, this is just perfectly in line with how they see the world and how they trust the world, especially living through a very difficult recession that happened mainly in 2008. So just like gold, Bitcoin is worth investing on, according to this article. One cannot measure its value in the future with just one look, but it needs a total analysis of the market, of which can't even be complete because the market is in such a rapid state of development. But nevertheless, that Bitcoin promises a positive, valuable outcome. So it's just really, really interesting just to recognize from another person's perspective, and how the value of Bitcoin can increase slowly and steadily over time because of the properties that Bitcoin provides. It's really scary. It's really different from what everyone is expecting from money or from a currency. But this is just making more and more sense to more and more people, as more and more people are learning about the Bitcoin and blockchain technology, wrapping their minds around it, and maybe downloading a Bitcoin wallet, experiencing what it means to receive or send a transaction, and then recognizing that this technology, Bitcoin itself, is fundamentally changing everything around us, right? And not only that, but it's interesting how this effect that is on people with advertising and whatnot. So about it once, or you learn about it once, and then after that, you just start to hear about it everywhere. You start to hear about the Google development or the Microsoft development, or you start to hear about it being accepted here or it being accepted there. And once we hear about Amazon accepting it, then that's going to be a massive PR blitz for Bitcoin and blockchain technology. It's going to be really, really exciting once we find other major retailers that are coming in to accept Bitcoin, which is going to increase Bitcoin's flow and its liquidity inside the marketplace, people really spending it for smaller size transactions, and then more demand than creating for Bitcoin. There only being a limited number of Bitcoins, and then we start to see the Bitcoin price really start to skyrocket, right? Really interesting. So I'd love to know, what do you think about all of that? Like this video if you enjoyed any of this content or this information. I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate your support. Leave your thoughts in the comment box below, and let me know, what do you think about Bitcoin hitting $25,000 in 3 years? Do you think that's really possible, that Bitcoin can reach $25,000 in 3 years? Or do you think that's ridiculous because we're going to reach that number much, much sooner than that? I'd love to hear some of your guesstimations and what you think that Bitcoin price is going to be. It seems as if everybody has a number, so that may be fun. But with that being said, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching this video. We have more on the way. And in the meantime, I'm glad that together we're minting coins.